Everyone, hope you're enjoying your summer. It's the dog days of the NFL schedule. With Reuben, Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast, a special one for you today. Joining us now on the Eagle Eye Podcast, we're happy to welcome him back, Merrill Reese. Merrill, how are you?
I'm well. I'm excited about the upcoming season. There's still a little ways to go till training camp, but this should be something.
It should be. You know, it's funny. Reuben and I were talking not that long ago about this roster, and it's just about how much better it appears than recent seasons. What's your take on it when you look at the players they've brought in and at least what they have on paper right now?
Dave, I think I said to you guys before the draft that the guy I most wanted was Jordan Davis, and that's who they got. I mean, that's the guy. And to think that they got Jordan Davis and the Kobe Dean and then ended up with A.J. Brown, to me, was incredible. I can't remember a first day of a draft that went like that.
Yeah, I'm still not quite sure how Nakobe Dean fell to the third round. It seems like they just have more young talent than they've had in a long, long time. Even in 2017, when they won it all, it was an older veteran team. And, you know, it wasn't really super sustainable, although they did get to the playoffs the next couple of years. But when you look at this roster, I mean, it's been a long time since they've had so much young talent. Any of these young guys that you're really excited about seeing in camp?
All of them, really, as far as the draft choices are concerned. I mean, there are guys who you didn't expect or know a lot about, like their second pick. We never thought that they were going to go for a center, but still, he seems to have all of the credentials. There's one guy who really whets my interest because I saw him so much in college, and that is Britton Covey. I watched him at Utah. I would actually stay up late on a Saturday night game if Utah was playing to see Britton Covey, because he was remarkable. I mean, he was like the college version of one of these unbelievable returners that we've seen over the years in the National Football League. Now, we don't know how his talent is going to translate, and he's, as Buddy used to say, a little bitty guy, but boy, is he explosive. I mean, he had, against big competition, he broke loose. He had 2 touchdowns against Ohio State, and this team has not had a threat like that since Darren Sproles. They really haven't.
You remember what Buddy used to say about little itty-bitty running backs?
Yeah.
He was talking about running backs, but he said, we would always ask him, like, you know, how come you haven't given him any carries? You know, how come he never plays? Like, every year they'd have these, you know, Mark Higgs guys or you know, Robert Levet. Remember Robert the Jet Levet? And they'd never play. And Buddy said, hell, you guys like them itty-bitty backs run around, look pretty, get killed.
Yeah, but they have to hit him to get killed, to kill him. But
he's really small, though.
He's small, but he's so elusive. Nobody really, and now I don't know that he's going to fit in as a wide receiver. I mean, he's listed as a wide receiver. I think that's a long shot, but one of the things I can't wait to see in a preseason game is to watch him return. Now, preseason games are often they often inflate the return game because the 11 guys on the special teams unit and coverage are often bumping into each other. But still, I think you're going to see some excitement every time he steps on the field. And they tried it with Jeremy Bloom, and that didn't work. But this guy is such a pure returner.
Yeah, he's fun. It's funny that 2 of the guys I'm most excited to watch in training camp are on the other side. You have Britton Covey down here, who's like 170 pounds, and then Jordan Davis, who's
like 730 pounds.
Yeah, so you kind of have the juxtaposition there.
You know, speaking of Jordan Davis, if I may just throw this out there, I was so impressed with him at the OTA. Not about what he did on the field, because that's just choreography as far as I'm concerned. And I already came in loving what I saw from him at the University of Georgia. But every time he stepped behind the microphone in our reporter's tent, he seemed to exude so much poise, so much confidence, so much intelligence. He looks like such a great sense of humor. He seems like such a great fit for this city.
Yeah, he does. Reuben and I talked about it a while back, but I was in a weird position because I asked him about his weight after he was sitting up there talking about cannolis and all that. I was so impressed by how he handled that because he made it clear that this is his job now and he needs to really get all that stuff under control.
Yeah, he really did. He handled that a lot better than Phil Mickelson handled all of the live stuff yesterday.
Does Jordan remind you, his personality remind you of anybody?
Well, I heard I tweeted something about Jordan Davis and about him being a fit, the things I just said to you. And somebody said he kind of reminds you as the next coming of Jerome Brown.
A little bit.
But a little bit, but he's not the X-rated version.
He's like the PG-rated version of Jerome.
He's a G-rated version of Jerome. Yes.
Yeah. But that struck me the first time we talked. Well, not at the draft, but the first time we talked to him at the media tent. Just a little bit of Jerome in him. Just the, finding something, just finding joy in everything around him, and that personality, and being on all the time, and obviously the physique. It just a little bit. It's probably an unfair comparison. I'm not talking about football. I'm just talking about just the way he came across. But yeah, PG version of Jerome is. Yeah,
I don't think you'll ever see a repeat of the day we were all at Westchester waiting for Jerome Brown to arrive to training camp, and all the mothers and children are out there, and all of a sudden you hear like a rattle, and it's Jerome's Bronco coming up the street, and he drives it onto the center of the lawn, and he gets out wearing fatigues and yells, "Bleep Westchester!" And mothers are jumping, covering their kids' ears. I don't think you're going to see that from Jordan Davis.
And all he had with him, well, if he goes to Smith Hall in Westchester, he's in trouble. But all Jerome had with him was a briefcase and a drum set that day.
Yeah, that was different.
Yeah, but he was one of a kind.
I think Jordan Davis may turn out to be one of a kind too.
Yeah, it's exciting.
He is. He's really exciting.
It's really funny too because you have him who's this really lighthearted, funny guy, and then his teammate at Georgia who comes with him, Nakobe Dean, is so serious and so professionally minded already. I think those two guys are gonna be kind of fun together.
Oh, I think they're going to be fun to watch on the field. I mean, I think this defense is instantly improved with guys who are impact players. I mean, let's face it, they were two of the best, most impactful players in the national championship defense. And you got both of them. I mean, there's another one or two in there too that were also impacting Georgia's success, but they were two of the most dominant.
How often are you are your preseason kind of hunches about a team correct? Like, I think we all kind of felt like, there's been years we all felt they were going to be good. There's been years we all felt they were going to be bad. But are you usually right? Like, are your intuitions about this team usually spot on?
They tend to be a little green, evil green. I'll plead guilty of that because I love the team. I love the sport. I love the job. I love everything about it. However, somebody asked me the other day, what are my projections for this year's team? And I think over the last 120 seasons, I have matured a little bit. And I don't project seasons anymore because no sport is the war of attrition that this one is, where I now project week by week. But, I mean, can any of us say who is going to line up for the Eagles and the Dallas Cowboys on December 24th? I mean, what if Dak Prescott's out? It's a totally different game. What if Micah Parsons is out? What if Jordan Mailata is out? I mean, and the funny thing, Dave and Rube, is that when we went into that 2017 season, if somebody told us they were going to lose Jason Peters, and somebody then told us they were going to lose Jordan Hicks, and somebody then told us, well, they were also going to lose their punter, Caleb Sturgis, their kicker, Caleb Sturgis, and they were going to lose their best special teamer in Chris Maragos, and so on down the line, we would have said this team is going to be lucky to break 500, and yet they brought in Jake Elliott, who turned out to save the season with the 61-yarder against the Giants, and then they shuffled around the offensive line, and things got better. And Alshon Jeffrey had a big season, and Nelson Aguilar, who was stumbling the year before, came back and played well. And then if they had told us that Carson Wentz would go down against the Rams, and when he did go down against the Rams, I thought all shots at going deep in the playoffs were over. And then Nick Foles comes in and played terribly, actually, on Christmas night against the Raiders. And then had a decent game against the Giants, bad game against the Raiders, and they threw up. But then he came to life. He came to life in the second half against Atlanta. And from there on in, he was amazing.
After that Raiders game, I got all these tweets from people that thought the Eagles should start Nate Sudfeld in the playoffs.
And they asked that Doug Peterson. It's one thing when you hear it from a fan, but a reporter asked Doug Peterson at the next press conference, "Are you thinking of starting Nate Sudfeld?" And Doug just looked at him. He was incredulous. But to the Eagles' credit, everybody came together. But that's why when you say, and here we are in June, am I optimistic? Based on the roster they handed out of training camp, yeah, based on that. But again, it's a war of attrition in the National Football League. I'll tell you this. I am optimistic about the biggest controversy of the team and the most central character, and that's Jalen Hurts. I like him. I think he's got what it takes. I think he's just going to get better and better. I think he's got the drive, the desire. I think he has the talent. And when people start criticizing him about reading defenses and the decisions that he makes, I say, wait a minute. I mean, if we look at Aaron Rodgers, maybe the greatest quarterback today, he or Patrick Mahomes, but one of those guys. But Aaron Rodgers, don't forget that Aaron Rodgers was drafted by the Packers in 2005 and sat in 5, 6, and 7 before he actually came on the field in 2008 as a starter. Drew Brees wasn't instantly great in San Diego. He didn't become a future Hall of Famer until 4 years later when he ended up in New Orleans. So I'm looking at a kid who started 20 games, and there are people who are already saying the Eagles have to go find a quarterback, or he's not the quarterback of the future. I mean, he did some remarkable things last year. Yeah, he didn't have a very good playoff game, but neither did the whole team. But I just think he's going to continue to grow, and I think his pure arm strength is underestimated by a lot of people. He can throw, and I've talked to Doug Peterson about this in the offseason. He can throw every pass that you have to throw, and he can throw it with zip. What I saw when he rolled to his right in Carolina and threw on a 2-point conversion, and keep in mind that a football field is 53 1/3 yards wide, and he threw a bullet to the other corner to Devontae Smith. I mean, it was a laser. When he threw that ball into coverage, into the smallest of windows to Greg Ward in that second Washington game, he did everything to show you he can throw that ball with a lot of velocity. I think he's going to be fine.
I've been really impressed by his demeanor, too, because all those questions, at some level, I'm sure they bother him a little bit, but it doesn't seem like it bothers him to the extent that it would bother a lot of other kids his age. I mean, have you gotten that sense from him, too, that he's kind of just above all that criticism in a way?
Yeah. I think he could be a little bit more easygoing at the, and not that he loses his poise at the press conferences, the media conferences, but he doesn't quite seem, he's mechanical. He gives you a few words in a cloud of dust. He's not relaxed. He's not natural. He's not comfortable. I think comfortable is the best word to use. He's not comfortable at the media conference the way that we saw from Jordan Davis. He was comfortable. He enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed him. He enjoyed the whole experience. You see somebody, I mean, oh my goodness, one of my favorite people, if not players of all time, Brandon Graham. When he sits down with us, I mean, it's such a pleasure. But some players grow into that where they become more and more comfortable. Dawkins is a good example. B. Dawk early on was kind of reticent, quite a laid back, and several years later he took command of a media conference. So I think that's an area where Jalen Hurts will grow.
Yeah, I think Dave and I both agree with you. It's a matter of how much. I mean, look, he's the youngest quarterback ever to take this franchise to the playoffs, and in his first year as a starter. I mean, Randall, what year was Randall drafted? 85, and he wasn't even a full-time starter till 88.
Yes.
There's and went to the playoffs that year. There's so many stories like that you shared about Aaron Rodgers and Drew Brees. There's not a lot of guys, and there are more today, I guess, than ever, but who from day one of their rookie year are playoff Pro Bowl type quarterbacks.
Reuben, I think we agree that Josh Allen is one of the elite quarterbacks now, and his first 20 games weren't as good as Jalen Hurts.
Yeah. Yeah, and the kid is going to do everything he can. I mean, he's such a hard worker. He's going to get everything he can out of his ability. There's no doubt about that. So,
oh yeah, and they've given him a stable of receivers, and they're putting him up behind, if not the best, one of the best offensive lines in the NFL.
Yeah, I would expect those things and his own growth and being in the same system for a second year, which he's never had. I think that's going to add up to significant improvement.
I agree. I really do.
The weapons around him are fun. Merrill, when the Eagles traded for A.J. Brown, what was your initial reaction?
Shocking. I mean, I was really shocked. I didn't see that coming. It came out of left field. I mean, there were some receivers out there that I thought they might go to early in free agency, and right on down the line, they missed this one, they missed that one, but I never expected that A.J. Brown was going to end up here, and I mean, I just jumped off my seat. I couldn't believe it. It's a brilliant move.
What did you think of Nick's first year in the position? You've been around 9 head coaches, I think.
Is it 9?
I guess. You came in with. Did you come in with Dick or a year?
No, I mean I did pre and post game shows before, but as the play-by-play guy, I came in with Dick.
So Dick and Swampy and Buddy and Kotite and Ray and Andy.
Marion.
I said Swampy, yeah.
Oh yeah,
and,
Swampy. Yeah.
And
Ray,
and Andy, and then Doug, and then he who shall not be named, and
he was my unfavorite.
I know that.
Chipless.
That's been well documented. Who was your favorite? You had some good guys there,
I mean, to me, the greatest coach I've ever been around. The greatest, and I think if you go into a dictionary and you look up the word charisma, there's a great big picture of Dick Vermeil. I mean, the fact that the effect that Dick Vermeil had in that locker room, the effect that Dick Vermeil had on this entire city was incredible. I mean, as a communicator, as a motivator, as an organizer, he was the best. But I do not minimize what Andy Reid accomplished and all of the games that he won, more than any Eagles coach in history. And I certainly don't minimize the job that Doug Peterson did, where people criticized the hiring of Doug Peterson, and 2 years later he held up the Lombardi Trophy. So they were all did amazing jobs. But listen, I love Buddy. I thought Buddy was great to get to know. I think that Buddy Ryan, I'm going to tell you 3 people who I think belong in the Hall of Fame. Buddy Ryan, Jim Johnson, and Bud Carson. But they belong in the Hall of Fame as defensive coordinators at what they did in the various career stops as defensive coaches. They are all brilliant men in their fields. They were visionaries. They were people who put together amazing defenses. But they were not. Well, Jim Johnson was never a head coach. Bud Carson was not successful in either of his two stops, and Buddy Ryan never finished the job here. But boy, was he fun to cover. But
yeah,
but
one
to
of the
me,
most.
you say number one, it's the guy going to the Hall of Fame this August.
And it was good to see him at practice last week.
Oh, he's great.
He was over there.
But you were asking me about Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah, my feeling about Nick.
Yeah, you've been around him a year now.
I like him. I do like him. It's hard not to like him. He's a regular guy. And I think he sets a nice tone in the building. I think that people like him. People are happy to go to work. I think he communicates well with his players. However, I'm going to tell you guys something, and I don't know if you agree, but I have less of a feel for the coaching staff, the head coach, and the players than I have at any other point in my career, because I'm used to going down there and roaming around the building and going into the locker room and talking to the players in the locker room like you guys every day. And while there might be 15 guys around one player, I might be in the corner talking to a backup guard. But getting to really know the players as people and getting to know the coaches, actually talking to the coaches in the hall. Or there were days when we used to be able to stand at a practice for a full practice, not, now we get to see stretching and warm-ups, and then they ask us all to leave the field, me included. And of course, add to that I had the advantage of being on the team plane from the first game of the preseason till the Super Bowl, if that were the case. I haven't traveled now in 2 years. I would have a tough time identifying every player on that, at the team that finished the season last year. Of course, not the rookies this year, but I'd have a tough time identifying each one of the players by just their face, because I haven't been in their presence. So it's difficult for me to assess the total effect of a coach, a head coach, with from afar. I will tell you that I think that as the season went on, Nick became more and more at ease with the media, more and more comfortable in the job. I think we talk about culture. I think he presented this team with a positive culture. I like his drive. I like his enthusiasm. I like a lot of things about him. But to judge him, I mean, this is a different world, guys. I mean, there are 23 assistant coaches. I mean, there are not assistant coaches, but there are 23 coaches on this staff. 23 coaches. It's like the head coach today is the corporate head, and the people move around him. Is his effect the same? I mean, we go back to Dick Vermeil. I think Dick Vermeil had 10 or 11 assistants. It was different. The job is different. Every part of the job is different. And I don't know that the head coach I do know. I can say this without any hesitation, and it's certainly not controversial, but we all know this, that the head coach today doesn't have near the control of personnel that Andy did, that Dick did. I mean, Dick would turn to Carl Peterson and said, "Carl, go get me a punt returner." And the next day, a punt returner would be in the building. I mean, the head coach today, with very few exceptions, I would think Andy is up there. Certainly Belichick gets whatever Belichick wants. And I'm not saying that somebody like Nick doesn't have input or doesn't have the ability to tell the personnel people and what he feels he needs and isn't given consideration. But I'm saying that the head coach in the National Football League today doesn't have anywhere near the personnel power that Dick Vermeil did and some of the subsequent coaches who have made their mark.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The one thing I have noticed, you mentioned it about Nick, is that he's kind of a regular guy.
Yeah, he is.
And I think it would be really tough if we had gone through last year with a different head coach, because he made himself available to us when I'm not sure a lot of coaches would have, to the extent that him and his coaching staff had. So I think that's been good. I want to ask you,
and you know what we did? We laughed at him. We laughed at him when he came up with the flower and the tree and all that stuff. And he never showed anger. He never showed impatience. He never got nasty. He never, he took the punches and came back with a smile.
Yeah, and even when things worked out, he could have rubbed it in everyone's face, and he kind of laughed it off.
He never did. Yeah,
I want to get your take on Jonathan Gannon, because he's the other kind of a important coach on this staff. Speaking about taking heat, I mean, he took a lot last year,
and he was poised and cool and nice. He never got nasty either. Jonathan Gannon was impossible to judge last year because there were too many holes in the defense. I think with the additions this year, and we will get a much better stance, a much better view of what Jonathan Gannon is all about. He has the reputation of being very, very bright. I know he is very, very driven. A lot of people are convinced that he will be a head coach in the not too distant future. So I think we have to watch him and put him under the microscope this year. But I do like him.
Yeah, I think a lot of that was really unfair. I mean, I said on this podcast not too long ago, Jim Johnson's first defense in '99, and he had some great players. I mean, he had Bobby Taylor and Dock and Troy Vincent and Hugh Douglas. They were ranked 23rd in the league.
Yeah.
It takes time for a coach to put his scheme in and teach it and get the guys to follow along.
Yeah. Yeah.
And despite all that, they were still a top 10 defense last year. They had some good moments. So I'm really curious to see what he can do with all the reinforcements that Howie gave him.
Yeah, me too. And then the last piece was bringing in Bradbury. I mean, that's terrific. You have Slay and you have Bradbury. That's a good pair of corners there, and they have a good third in Avonte Maddox. So there are depth issues, but I don't think you take the Super Bowl champion Rams. I don't. You could take any team in the league, and nobody has depth in all area because the salary cap would never permit it.
Yeah, most definitely. I think people say, well, the safeties, Anthony Harris and Marcus Epps. Every team has a couple positions like that you don't have, and that's how guys make a name for themselves. They get better, and if they don't, put someone else in there. But they're really solid. And Dave and I were talking about this on the last podcast. I mean, other than safety, I mean, they've got established guys everywhere, and it's not like older veteran guys that they scraped off the waiver wire. They're like guys in their prime. And
yeah, we could be nitpicky. I mean, just to nitpick. And this is not to say that I didn't think Aaron Sippis did a good job, but I think they need to bring in a second punter to training camp, just to create a competitive atmosphere. And I always used to see them bring in 2 kickers and 2 punters. I mean, Jake Elliott had a great season, but it wouldn't hurt to bring in another kicker just to watch him, so that if there is an injury, somebody might be out there. I just bring in a little more at certain positions. But that's really being nitpicky. I mean, I think that Sippis, late in the season, he faltered a little bit, but he did a good job.
Well, there's a guy whose picture's right behind you. I think I see Sean Landet's name there.
Right.
So I saw Sean not too long ago. He's pretty fit. I think he's probably good for maybe 12 games.
John Harbaugh told me that Sean Landeta had the greatest leg speed that he has ever seen. That stroke he's never seen anything like it. And it served him well for 22 years.
Incredible. Plus a few USFL seasons. Yeah, he's one of my favorite guys. We should have him on a podcast because he is the best storyteller. I mean, Landeta,
he's a great guy.
He's a great guy. Great story.
He comes up here to the office fairly often, and we'll go out and have lunch.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, he still lives up there, right? He lives up.
Yeah, he's in Bucks County.
Yeah.
I'm obviously talking to you from my office at WBCB.
Yeah, I'm a former employee, I think. I think it's some
you and Mark Eckel.
Yeah, some strange definition of the word employee.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask a couple of things about, like, we know about your career and everything. You're going to your 47th year.
46th.
46th? Well, 47th, including the year you did you did color, right?
No, that's 46. That was 1977. So if you count them out, and I ended up doing play-by-play the last two games. So if you count them out, this will be 46.
Okay, 46. My bad. I'm sorry I gave you an extra
year.
It's
okay. That's a year.
You have as much enthusiasm and energy and passion for the job now as I'm guessing year one. I wasn't around quite yet in year one. I was there about year 10 or 11. Do you feel that way? Do you feel as much? I mean, are you, like, when opening day rolls around or the first day of training camp, first game, are you as energized as ever?
There's no place in the world I would rather be, and nothing in the world I would rather do. I love it as much as I have ever loved it. I am just as nervous before the first preseason game as I would be before the Super Bowl. I am still nervous every Sunday morning that I get up to do a game, or
Really?
Monday or Thursday or whatever day it is.
Tuesday.
And I can't eat once I get to. You guys will be in the cafeteria. I will be in there just chatting for a while, but there will be I'll drink a couple of sodas, but that's about it. I eat. Cindy makes me a big stack of pancakes to hold me over because I couldn't put anything in my stomach. Now, Mike comes to the stadium and he eats right through the game. He comes back at halftime. Nothing bothers him. But I'm a nervous wreck until Joe McPeak cues me, and I come on with the game, and then it all goes away, and I'm in a zone for the next 3.5 hours. So yes, Reuben, to answer your question, I love it as much as I ever have, and I never want to leave. I love it.
Mike, you're going into your 25th year with Mike, is that right?
I think it's 25th.
98, right?
Yeah. I had another great thrill the other day. Do you want to hear about that?
Yeah.
I'm a great golf fan. And
I'm a great golfer.
Yeah, I'm not a great golfer, but I'm a passionate golfer, and I can play. And the United States played Great Britain and Ireland in the Curtis Cup, which is competition with the 8 greatest U.S. amateur women against the greatest 8 of Great Britain and Ireland. And Marion Golf Club, of which I'm proud to be a member, asked me to be the first tee announcer for the final round. So I stood out there and I introduced the players and introduced them as they came to the tee and got to say, "Play away, please." And it was a great, great thrill.
As nervous as you are for
just as nervous as you could be until the first words came out of my mouth.
I think you should do that at the link on opening day in September. Play away, Jalen.
I'll say, if they tell me right before game time, I'll say, "Play away, please."
Hey, Merrill, I have a question for you. This is kind of a silly one, but names. We've had some tricky names here in the past. What are some that gave you the biggest struggle and that you really had to kind of practice and perfect to make sure you wouldn't mess them up?
I mean, probably most recently, Halapuli Vadi Vaitai. Took me a while to get to say Halapuli Vadi Vaitai. Reuben and I can remember Junior Tadalatasi.
Junior Smith.
Buddy called him Junior Smith. But you know what? You can still blow names. Crazy thing. It doesn't matter how often you do this. crazy things come out of your mouth when you least expect them. And it's not that you're growing old, because believe me, I mean, I'm guilty of being up there, but I will tell you that I can memorize a roster in 15 minutes the same way I always did. I have a photographic memory, and things just stick. But when a game gets a little bit, you've got to really, I don't know, when a game gets out of hand or it's not going well, sometimes your concentration, if you're not careful, your concentration can wane. And so the Eagles were playing the Bucs in the playoff game, and Giovanni Bernard came in the game. And he did something, and it's late in the game, and the Eagles are out of it. And he carried the ball, and I, without realizing it, I called him Christian Bernard. And Mike Quick looked over at me. Who is Christian Bernard? Well, Christian Bernard was the South African doctor who was the first person to ever perform a successful heart transplant. That was definitely not this guy. and that's what came out of my mouth. I felt like an idiot. I mean, but these things can happen if you're not careful. So you just have to be sure that you're right there all the time, and that you are concentrating on every single play, even if the game is 80-0.
Well, Dave will tell you how many times I've called Hassan Ridgeway so far. Like 3 times.
He's an interesting addition.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he could really change the dynamic of that defense.
Yeah, amazing.
Hey, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that the pass rush ought to really be upgraded this year.
Yeah,
and a good bit of that comes from the push up the middle. I mean, Jerome wasn't a sack master, but Bud Carson, talking about Bud Carson, once said to me that the success that Reggie and Clyde Simmons and Reggie White had in getting to the quarterback was really, a lot of that had to do with, Reggie was an amazing player and Clyde was quite good, but the push that Jerome gave it up the middle. And I think that's going to inflate the sack numbers.
Yeah, no doubt. My favorite Bud Carson stat is, the 91 Eagles allowed 221 yards per game over the full season. Bud was a defensive coordinator. That's the fewest yards per game ever allowed in a 16-game season to this day, or 17-game season per game.
Yeah.
And it's actually the fewest since the 78 Steelers allowed. I think it's like 209. Both teams coached by Bud Carson, both defenses.
Reuben, was there ever a defense that was number one? They were number one against the run, number one against the pass, number one overall.
I think that's been done since. Dave would know that. I'll look that up. I think that's been done.
But that's what Bud's defense did. Boy,
91. Yeah,
he was special.
Yeah, he was. Did you have, by any chance? I'm gonna totally change gears here. Did you by any chance have a chance to see the 110-meter hurdles at the U.S. Grand Prix track meet in New York on Sunday, and Devon Allen running the 3rd fastest time in history?
Well, actually, as I said, I was at the Curtis Cup at Marion, so I didn't.
Oh, right.
But I heard all about it.
I'm sure you DVR'd it. Yeah, I mean, it would be. I mean, Dave and I both agree it's still a long shot for him to, make the team. But his speed is, I mean, it's world class. He has played big time football. It's been a long time. What kind of chance do you give him to, even just make the practice squad or be a returner or just kind of? It's a long shot, but it's fun.
But see, as a kid, I went out to Franklin Field when the Eagles had signed a Villanova track star by the name of Frank Budd.
Frank Budd from Asbury Park High School.
The world's fastest human. He was the world's fastest human. And he used to run out for a pass, and there was nobody near him. He outran everybody, and Sonny Jurgensen used to throw the ball downfield, and it used to hit him in the head.
Well, I mean, Frank Budd never played college football. I mean,
nobody played high school football.
Asbury Park. Grew up in West Long Branch.
Yeah. So, and then we had Ronaldo Nehemiah.
Yeah.
And then the Eagles one time signed
John Carlos.
John Carlos off of the controversial Olympics.
Mexico City.
These track stars hadn't worked out, but as you said, he's got a football background, and maybe he will. Maybe he will. I mean, the Eagles tried Jeremy Bloom, as I said before, who was an Olympic ski champion, freestyle ski champion, and a terrific punt returner at Colorado, and he didn't make it. Didn't come close.
No.
That's what makes Jordan Mailata such an amazing story. A guy who's never played football can.
Do you know what? In the first year he was here, I went up to Stout, and let me tell you, there's another great coach, Jeff Statler. And I went up to Stout, and they said, "How's Jordan doing?" And he said, "Merrill, it would be like me asking you to broadcast Sunday's game in French." and I said, after I got through bonjour, I would be in deep trouble. But you see, he's unbelievable. He's this great physical specimen and great talent. But what has made him what he is so driven, and he loves this game so much, and he's put so much into it. It's a combination, great talent, great insides, and great coaching.
Yeah. His ability to accept that coaching has been huge, because I don't think a lot of guys would have been able to, frankly, put up with what Stout had to do to make him a good player.
Yeah, but he took it with a good humor. He's so mentally strong, emotionally strong. None of that stuff bothered him. I don't think Carson Wentz could have withstood that kind of coaching.
No,
and I like Carson.
Yeah,
that's not to be mean.
How do you think he'll play this year?
Reuben, I don't know. A lot of people thought that Frank Reich could re-energize him, and he didn't. He let them down at the worst time of the season. I think the biggest problem with Carson is he came in with all the ability in the world, and once he suffered that terrible leg injury, torn ACL, torn MCL, structural damage, he was never physically the same player, and he was reluctant to make the adjustments to his game. Other quarterbacks have lost some of their physical acumen, but they adjust. I thought he was stubborn. I know that I don't think anybody gave Doug a greater, more frustration week in and week out, because he was tough to coach. And I think that if Frank couldn't do it, I don't know that it's going to happen with the commanders who have not commanded anybody yet.
Yeah, you exactly said what I've been saying. It's like his body is telling him to become a different player, but he won't do it.
No, he won't do it.
And it's not gonna work. Although he might have a few good games here and there.
Yeah, here and there.
But as far as sustaining it and taking the team into the playoffs, I just don't see it. I wanted to ask you. This is totally unrelated to anything we've talked about.
Sure.
When you were a little kid growing up, was your voice deep, or did that come later?
I was just a little kid growing up. That's all. And it was between my freshman and sophomore year at Temple. I came back the next year, and over the summer, my voice was cracking. And every 4 words, it was cracking and high and low and all over the place. And I came back to school with a different voice. That's all. That's when it changed.
I always wondered about that.
That's pretty late.
Yeah.
No, as a little kid, I did commercials, and I was squeaky, like every other little kid.
What was that? Did you do like that breakfast cereal? What was it?
I did. Oh, Ranger Joe.
Yeah.
Ranger Joe cereal. Yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
I did M&M's candy. M&M's Candy Carnival. So, but I did a lot of things. I did Sylvan Seal Milk with Chuck Wagon Pete.
Wow.
I did all that stuff.
Does any of that exist on videotape or anything anywhere?
There was no videotape.
No, I don't mean but I mean like transferred over, like film. None of those things.
Something called Kinescope.
Yeah.
And I think it's long gone. And I don't know if I don't believe they were even taped.
Yeah, that's too bad. That would be,
I know. I wish we could find that.
Yeah, that'd be fun to play some of that.
Well,
Didn't you? Weren't you a DJ early in your career? Didn't you play music?
Only when I came out of the service, out of the Navy. I was a naval officer, and I came out. My first job was in Pottstown, and so when you're in Pottstown, you're it. So I did the disc jockey show. I did the news. I did the sports. I put on a record at 6:00 at night, and put the needle on the turntable, and drove to the Little League field. And when I got there, I plugged in the microphone and knocked 3 times. And the secretary would come in and take the needle off the record. And then it would come on with the a Little League baseball game. So when you're in a little teeny radio station, you do everything. But wow. I was never, I was never going to be a disc jockey.
It's not too late.
No. Yeah. But this is what when I was 8, 9, and 10, I was going to be the quarterback of the Eagles. That's what I was going to be. That was my dream. But at 5'8" and 140 pounds, it wasn't going to happen. But that was I was the kid who went to bed, and the Phillies are out on the West Coast playing the Dodgers, and I'm in bed, sneaking my transistor radio under my pillow, and my parents thought I was asleep. But I was up listening to the game until 3:00 in the morning, and then they had trouble getting me up for school.
Yeah, I loved those West Coast games when I was a kid.
Was it
reason to reason to stay up till 2:30 in the morning. Can't beat it.
But this is what I wanted. I mean, my hero was Bill Campbell. I love Bill Campbell.
Yeah, and then Bill did a show at a furniture store in your station, right?
Bill became a wonderful friend. He really did.
I feel so lucky I got to work with him. I don't remember the name of the furniture store in I guess it was Langhorne, maybe.
Yeah.
On your air. We sat among all the sofas and did an hour of sports talk. It was tremendous.
I remember all that. Now Cindy and I, and maybe 1 or 2 other people were the only non-family members at his 90th birthday party.
Is that right?
It was amazing. Yeah. But Bill was a great man. Great man.
He was. Yeah, he really was.
So Merrill, the next time we see you,
yes,
we'll be out at training camp. So we're looking
27th of July, right?
Well, I don't know. They report on the 26th, so probably
maybe a few days later.
Maybe the 28th might be the first practice. That's normally
whatever.
Pretty typical, but we're looking forward to it. You have any big summer plans? I'm guessing you're going to be golfing quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm going to be golfing quite a bit. I've got the next 3 days all lined up. I'm playing in Ron Jaworski's tournament over at River Winds on Friday, and that'll be fun. And they're honoring Dick Vermeil. In fact, if you guys want to look for football players from all over the country, you might show up at River Winds on Friday afternoon or Friday morning, because it will be packed with Ron's football friends from all over the league with players and coaches. It'll be a nice gathering. So I'm in on that.
Well,
but I will. We used to go away a lot, but then COVID changes that. Yeah. And I really haven't traveled that much. But Cindy and I both do play golf, so that's good.
Well, don't you miss tennis, though?
Reuben, I do miss tennis, but don't forget, when I was in college, I played 6 hours a day. And I played for years. So by the time I was in my early 50s, I played a tournament. And then we were flying to London for a game. And halfway across the Atlantic, my left knee blew up. And Vince DiStefano said, "You're going to have an MRI when we get back." And I had torn cartilage. And he did an arthroscopy, and I was back on the courts in 6 weeks. And then the next year, Art Bartolozzi was the doctor, and the same thing happened to my right knee. And he said he did the same thing to my right knee. And 6 weeks later, I was ready to go. And then he said, "But listen, unless you want knee replacement," he said, I'd play doubles. And I played a little doubles, but it wasn't the same. And then I said to Cindy, "Get me a set of golf clubs. I'll take 3 lessons so I don't embarrass myself at these charity scrambles." And I took 3 lessons, and 4 and 5, and got hooked. And I have totally fallen in love with the game. So, every now and then I'll have a dream that I'm on the tennis court. And I'll wake up and I say, but I can't run. but you know what? I did need a knee replacement. My knees don't hurt me, except they're a little stiff when I go down steps. But I feel great, and I can walk on the golf course and get plenty of exercise. And it's filled the void quite well. But I do miss parts of it, of course.
Okay, that's what I need to hear.
Yes.
We'll hit them straight this summer, Merrill. We'll see you at training camp, and thanks for your time.
Thank you. You guys do a great job. I enjoy watching your podcast and the things you do on a daily basis. And you bring a lot of integrity and a lot of knowledge to this profession. So thank you for having me on. It's been my pleasure.
Oh, appreciate that.
Thank you, Merrill.
See you soon.
See ya.
Always enjoy talking with Merrill.
Yeah, I have a feeling he could tell stories for we could be here for 24 hours listening to Merrill's stories.
45 years, you're going to have a few stories.
Yeah, it's amazing. And he's the dean of all NFL broadcasters, play-by-play guys. I wonder if there's anybody in any other sport that's been doing it longer. I mean, he's an all-timer.
Yeah, no, he absolutely is. You know what I still appreciate so much about him is we were at OTAs not that long ago. He's out there. He's there, and he's at the interviews. He wants to meet the players coming off the podium. I mean, you could mail it in at this point, if you're Merrill Reese.
Yeah, that's a great point. And he's out there at practice. He talks to the players. He asks questions. You could probably get away with broadcasting the games without doing all that, but he's such a pro.
He could show up on Sundays.
Yeah.
At this point.
Yeah,
but I give him credit for that.
Yeah.
And it's like he wants to get to know the players, which I think is cool.
Yeah.
And it lends knowledge to when he's doing the broadcast.
Doesn't sound like he's going to be hanging him up anytime soon. He's got so much enthusiasm. I love it.
Yeah, we're better for it. So thank you to Merrill. We always appreciate when he joins the podcast. If you enjoy the Eagle Eye podcast, please do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your pods. If you're watching on YouTube, please click the like button and subscribe there as well. We'll have podcasts for you throughout the summer leading up to training camp, and then we'll really hit it full bore. That'll be fun. For Reuben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. Take care, everyone.